Shawn, the big question I think on a lot of workers' minds, specifically in this room, we know all the national issues, but also Louisville assembly plant and the future product there, and what role that plays in this contract negotiation. So what can you tell us about what members should expect for LAP coming out of this?
I mean, job security is one of our biggest issues, always is going into bargaining. So the plants that we don't know, down the line what's lined up for them, it's our job to bargain for products so that we keep that going. The workers deserve product. I mean, the fruits of their labor, have generated these massive profits. So that's one high expectation we have for the companies, is that when new products coming in, or when one product's going out, that we find a replacement for it and keep these plants going. They owe it to them.
Do you have a sense of what the product might be?
No, I don't. But I mean, we'll get into that. I mean, through bargaining, we'll secure that in bargaining.
It seemed like Todd sort of drew a line, though, that you won't recommend a contract without some sort of firm commitment to the future of Louisville assembly plant.
Yeah, I mean, I can assure you. I mean, Vice President Browning and Ford and the other vice presidents at GM explained the same thing. I mean, we want there's plants that have unstable futures, so we want to definitely get product lined up for them. These are the best times in history of these companies, and there's plenty of product out there to be gotten. So there's no excuse for not locking that down. So that's the plan.
Can you tell us where you are now with the deadline approaching in terms of the progress?
It's moved slow, but really it's no different than in typical years. I mean, we're about the same point that we are. Unfortunately, I say unfortunately because we really tried to push the companies to get things done up front and to really get down to business early. So because I've told them, if your expectation is to wait until a week before the deadline, you're going to be seriously disappointed come the 14th. And so we got a lot of work to do between now and the 14th.
Kurt, go ahead, Olivia.
Okay. Ford sources have told me that after coal was suspended, permanent workers have received general wage increases plus annual inflation bonuses of $1,500 annually, and that this total has exceeded the cumulative compensation gains that workers would have received with just COLA, saying that COLA in the 8 years since 2015 would have only equated a little over $25,000, whereas what they're currently doing has equated over $42,000.
Who's telling you that?
Ford sources. So how is Ford wrong?
I think Ford sources have got this way backwards. We have went since 2007. We have went backwards in wages. In 2007, when a worker got full time, their starting pay was it was a 3-year progression to full pay, but their starting pay to start the three-year progression was $19.60 some an hour. Today, they hire in $18.04 an hour when they get full time, and it's an 8-year progression to full pay. So I don't know where the hell they're doing their math at, but I will tell you one thing I've learned over the years from some of the corporate accountants. I had a corporate accountant tell me one time that what 1 + 1 is, and I said, yeah, 2, and he said, no, what do you want it to be? So that sounds like that kind of math.
Fair enough. And so Ford has stressed to me that it has increased its hourly labor costs more than other companies by roughly $9. Does this matter?
Well, I mean, they can say that they've increased their labor costs by $9. I don't know where, but at the end of the day, they've increased their CEO's pay by 40%. That's millions and millions of dollars. And again, I go back to this. It's criminal that when a worker would have to work 365 years to make what a CEO makes in 1 year. We got a problem. When these corporations have made billions of dollars, $250 billion in the last 10 years, and they've already made $20 billion the first 6 months of this year, these workers deserve their fair share.
Absolutely. And one more question here on the note of wages. Is it a concern to you, or how do you view that at the end of this current contract, 80% of workers will have reached top wage?
Is it a concern?
Is it a concern, or how do you view it that 80% of workers will have reached the top wage at the end of this current contract?
It's not a concern. I mean, the concern is about all the workers coming in, all the temp workers we still have, the in progression people, and getting the pay standard back to after 90 days of employment, you go to full pay. Everybody should get the same wage for doing the same work. There's no excuse for having workers on the line doing the same job and making 3 and 4 different wages. So that has to change.
Can you talk about the Ultium contract that you guys just achieved and what sort of standard that sets, and whether the workers here in Kentucky could...
Oh no, I can talk a lot about it. It hasn't set no standard.
Okay.
We didn't achieve a contract, so we are still bargaining at Ultium.
Okay. I thought you had reached an agreement. I'm sorry.
No, so I want to make sure people don't misconstrue that. Let me be clear about that. Altium and GM pay those employees such a pitiful wage, $16.50 an hour, 7 years of a progression to get to $20 an hour. Those workers are working 2 jobs, some of them. They could go to Waffle House down the road and hire in $18 an hour. So because they can't get people, and because we've been after them to raise the standard, they agreed, as we're still bargaining, to give them an interim pay increase because the workers deserve it for the unsafe conditions they're working in, for the work they're doing. We expect those rates to be our standards. Until we get our standards, we are not going to be satisfied. But all that was an agreement. It was a temporary agreement as we're bargaining, as we continue bargaining at Altium to raise the pay level.
I see. And your standard means equivalent to what the workers in the plants. Yeah.
This is powertrain work. Bottom line, it's powertrain work. If whether it's a combustible engine or a transmission, whether it's a battery, it's what propels the cars. So we view the battery work the exact same as powertrain work. So we expect powertrain wages and conditions there.
I just want to ask you one question that a viewer asked us yesterday. And people might not know how the process goes, but they said, well, if this deadline is getting so close, what are you doing here rallying the workers instead of, who's doing the negotiating? So how does that work? Can you explain that?
So the national negotiating committees that are elected among the committeemen and the presidents of all the locals are bargaining every day. The vice presidents lead those negotiations, each of the big 3. So Chuck Browning's leading forward right now. Stellantis is Rich Boyer, and GM is Mike Booth. And so every day they're in there, they're leading. Our job is to work on the economics, and we come in and with the members' demands. So we have scheduled meetings this coming week with all 3 of the big 3 CEOs and their teams, and to try to get somewhere on this. So, but they're in there every day, banging away at these things. There are literally hundreds of demands still hanging out there that need to be addressed. So those guys are working on those, and as we get closer, we'll continue our talks. But I'm talking daily with our teams and with them. So, but it's important that we're out here with our members. It's important that we're rallying the troops, and that they understand that we're with them, and we know that they're with us. So there's a lot of facets to bargaining, and trust me, we've got a plan.
You've blazed a new path by not picking a target company like has been done before. Does that open the door to, let's say Ford gives you a good deal, but GM and Stellantis don't?
Nope.
Maybe you strike. Or
we have the same. We have the same
strike them all, or strike them all, or strike none. Or
it's just going to depend on what happens. I mean, we've got 20 days, and a lot can change in 20 days. If one company comes forward and we get somewhere, obviously if we get finished, we won't strike them, but we have the same expectations with the other 2. So it's in their best interest. That's why we've given them all the demands up front. We've been very open with them from the onset about what we expect. We expect to have agreements for all 3 by then. So if all 3 of them choose not to get there, then all 3 of them are going to have some problems come September 14th. If one of them does and 2 of them will, however it works out, that's how it works out. But we expect the same standard at all 3.
Yeah, and I just want to be sure I have this clarified. Is it possible that you strike one company but not the other, or is it all or nothing?
There's a lot of possibilities, but I mean, let me assure you, if all 3 are not done by the 14th, I expect action of all 3. So.
And when you look at the results of the election here to authorize a strike, 99% to 1%, what message do you think that sends about the workers that you have here in Louisville?
It sends a message that the membership is fed up. It's the same message we've sent all over this country. They're fed up with going backwards in the best of times. There's no excuse for it. They deserve their fair share, and there's no reason in hell that shouldn't happen.
And obviously there's probably a lot of workers in the union that they've never gone through a strike before. Talk me through the importance of hosting events like this to make sure that they're ready in case this happens.
Well, and that's the point of this all. We don't want to strike. I mean, we don't want to, but I mean, at the end of the day, we have to do what we have to do. If these companies are not going to come to the pump to take care of these workers, with all the profits they've created for these companies, and the CEOs have bumped their pay up 40% over the last 4 years, corporations are making billions, and they're making investments elsewhere. They need to invest in our workers, and if they choose not to invest in our workers, we have to do what we have to do. It goes back to the Malcolm X quote I talk about by any means necessary. You can't say you want all these things. You can't say that you have high expectations and then turn around and say, but I'm not willing to do what I have to do to get it. The founders of this union, they didn't get a dime of strike pay. They didn't care. They wanted a better life for themselves. They wanted a better life for future generations, and they did whatever the hell they had to do to get it, and that's what we're going to do now.
Hey, can we do 2 more questions? Is that all right?
I think we were wrapped
I'm
up
good.
anyway.
Are you good? All right,
Yep.
cool,
Yep.
cool.
Shawn, thank you. Good luck.
Thank you.
We're behind you, Shawn.